Today's topic is building a Web3 practice. When I say building, this can also mean growing your practice. So whether it's from the ground up, today's day one for you, or you've been operating in the space or any space for that matter, we're going to show you how to level up, get things to the next level, get more clients. And the theme of today is how to make more money. That is usually what I focus on when working with new clients and the teams that I work with now. That is we can be honest, this is a safe space. That is everybody's goal, and it should be your goal. You want to make more money, you want to serve your clients, you want to grow your practice, and you want to acquire more freedom in life. So with that being said, I won't assume too much about your education or knowledge level in Web3. There's no prerequisite requirements or anything for this presentation, so don't get scared if you hear things you're not familiar with. We're going to try to keep it at a base level, move quickly, and get through it. So let's talk. So by now you're probably saying, who the heck is this handsome gentleman in front of you? My name is Brandon Santiago. I am the co-founder and chief marketing officer here at CryptoCFOs. I have about 20 years of marketing experience under my belt, which is pretty scary to say. I'm 39, but it makes me feel really old saying that. I've helped scale multiple firms from 0 to $1 million in revenue. That's kind of my sweet spot. I love that point in growing a practice. I love the grind and just that initial growth status phase that happens. And one second. And after that, things change when it comes to marketing, branding, and growing your practice. So I like to focus on that space. I refer to myself as a niche marketing strategist and educator. I also do the actual work, but I would rather teach others how to do it. I would rather consult and be strategic partners with firms. So that's how Taylor referred to me as a guru. I do not use that word. I do not like that. So we'll pretend that didn't happen. But I am the co-founder of CryptoCFOs along with Taylor and our other partner, Brian. We are a Web3 tax and accounting community. We have about 400 tax and accounting professionals. It also overlaps into legal, advisors, and much more. So these are professionals that are either working in the space already or looking to enter. So if you are not already part of the community, let me know and we'll see what we can do for you. And I'll make sure you can get a trial or something. And at the end of today, we'll actually be giving out 1 free year membership to our pro membership in the portal. So stick around for that. I really like to experience in niche industries within larger sectors. So some of my experiences in the music and entertainment industry, cannabis industries, sports, and of course, for the last few years, the crypto industry. I love marketing. I have an extreme passion for it. And if the team at Endowment gave me 5 hours today, I would have done 5 hours on building your practice in Web3. But I'm sure we could do many other events and webinars soon. So before we start, some housekeeping. Ask questions. I don't want this to be something where I'm just talking to you guys. I do have a lot of information. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So feel free to ask the questions, answer the questions that I present. That way I can learn more about the group, and be sure to stay focused. The presentation is in no way investment, financial, legal, business, or tax advice. I've been around enough of you guys to know that I should say that at the beginning of every webinar. My goal today is to have some fun with you guys and help you understand all of the opportunities in the space, and then help you kickstart your journey to either build or continue to grow your practice. And like I said in the beginning, let's make more money so you can buy more freedom. And we'll touch on that in a little bit. But that is something that I practice what I preach. I actually am catching a flight to Puerto Rico in about 10.5 hours because I have the ability to work from anywhere in the world, and I choose to do so. So like many of you, you hold those same skills and traits. We just have to figure out how to build your practice, find more clients, and then you can be on that same journey. So let's touch on some of the learning objectives. And I also apologize in advance. My dog is sleeping, so if you hear her snoring, we'll just ignore that. So learning objectives. Understand the core principles of Web3. So by the end of this webinar, you'll have a solid understanding of the core principles that define Web3. We'll explore what it is, how it differs from the traditional Web2 internet, and the technologies that are driving it, especially blockchain and decentralized systems. So we'll learn more about those as well. This foundation that we're going to set will be crucial as we continue throughout the presentation to discuss how you're going to then leverage these principles in building your own practice. We're going to recognize the growing adoption and importance of Web3. So one of the most important aspects that we'll cover today is the growing adoption of the industry. So it's basically a proof of concept. Why should you be in this niche? Why should you serve clients in this space? What makes it special? We're going to share some real world examples and some data that I've pulled from the internet to show just how rapidly the space is expanding. This is going to help you understand why it's crucial to embrace Web3 fully and not just stay on the sidelines. You want to be relevant in the space, and you want to position your practice to become a leader in this emerging field. We want to identify opportunities in the space. So we're going to dive into the various opportunities that exist within Web3. So whether you're a wealth advisor, tax professional, or accountant, you'll learn more about the opportunities that are available to you immediately in this massively, massively underserved industry. Specifically, when we talk tax and accounting, many of you are well aware of how underserved the space is. And as we dive deeper into the crypto niche, it's even more underserved. So my goal is to just prove that Web3 is more than just a buzzword. It's a space that has unlimited potential for innovative, forward-thinking professionals like all of you. Moving forward, we're going to develop initial steps for building a Web3 practice. So you're basically going to walk away with a few actionable steps. There's way too many for a 1-hour session, but I'm going to provide some what I feel is the important core initial first steps to building your Web3 practice. We'll discuss how to brand and position your firm to attract these clients, and then we'll go over some key marketing strategies that are tailored specifically for crypto. Whether you're starting from scratch or looking to transition into an existing practice that works in the Web3 space, all of these steps will work for all of you, whether you're an advisor, tax pro, accountant, or somebody who just snuck in and is interested to hear me talk. So next, we're going to discover where and how to engage with potential clients. That may seem a little confusing or simple, but that's one of the that's one of the problems that I'm faced with the most when dealing with new clients or building on my own. We want to, by the end of this session, I want to make sure that you guys are confident in discussing Web3 related topics with your clients, and you have the ability to provide the information, the guidance on digital assets, blockchains, and other emerging technologies. This confidence is going to be key. Whenever you niche down in any sector, people tend to know if you're faking. They know if you're just trying to, if it's a money grab for you. It's very evident when you're working and casting a wider net. It's easier to skate around topics and not necessarily be a professional or an expert in a specific space. But we want to make sure that we're focusing, and I'm going to give a few key things that you could do to increase that. And last but not least, we will show you how to make more money. So if you are just tuning in or just coming into the space, I should say, you might be asking, what is Web3? So we don't know what is Web3 at this point. Let's just clear the slate. Everybody's starting from ground one. The Web3 is the next evolution of the internet. So decentralization, ownership, and innovation. When the internet first came about, that was basically a worldwide network of computers connected by a bunch of cables and allowed the transference of information. So that's internet. Let's call that Web 0. And then from there, we then escalate to Web 1.0. So this is the evolution from Web 2 to Web 3. This era of the internet, we like to call the static web. So these are things like directories like Yahoo directory. If you know what that is, then you're probably just as old as me. This whole era was one-way communication systems. It's read-only directories, read-only content, company websites, and other navigators. It's informative, but boring and very little engagement at the time. It just seemed like just information. But the things that were happening in phase one, we'll call it, like the directories like Yahoo directory, personal read-only websites through GeoCities. So individuals were able to create kind of like static websites. Think billboard. So that's kind of like, it was just a billboard for your personal self, I guess you could say. There were navigators, things such as Netscape, which is, basically a web browser, which allowed you to browse all the boring, informative websites, which were boring, of course. Company websites like Coca-Cola, IBM, and many other top brands also had websites, which act as digital pamphlets or brochures that just basically explained what the company was offering, where they were located, things of that nature. And then read-only content from media companies such as CNN, BBC, and other news organizations. And these acted as newspapers, basically. So even in the first phase of the internet, we can see that things are beginning to be phased out. So at that time, we were seeing these websites were slowly, it wasn't drastic, but slowly replacing things like newspapers, magazines, billboards, phone books, pamphlets, brochures, things of that nature. So we can already see this evolution happening, whether we realized it at the time or not, which I certainly did not. But we see this happening. And this era took place, we'll call it from 1990 to about 2004. Looking back at that time period, we can laugh about it, we can joke about it. I can continue to call it boring, slow, and even useless. But at that time, it was truly revolutionary. It was changing the world as we know it, and has quickly become the foundation for not only technology as a whole, but many other aspects of life, from education, travel, commerce, socializing, and so much more. It's easy to see what Web3 would be without Web1, basically non-existent, but it's really scary if you try to think of what the world would be like without Web1. Who knows what would be happening? Who knows where we would be? I ordered breakfast and coffee this morning through DoorDash, and I actually take an Uber in a few hours to the airport. And these things today are extremely normal. I don't think twice about them. But back in 1990, if somebody would have said that's what's going to happen, I would have laughed at them and had no idea what they were talking about. So as we progress, we then venture off into Web 2. So Web 2 era is the Web 2 era would be between 2004 to present. So there is an overlap happening right now with Web 2 and Web 3. So this was considered the social era. So we move from static now to social web. And this encouraged contribution and engagement, interactive and social activities. We also were introduced to cloud computing and remote servers. And it really replaced and amplified many traditional news outlets, shopping centers, and even televisions. And just for a quick note, stick around. I know you might be saying, what does this have to do with building my firm? But right now, we're just setting the groundwork to truly understand where we are in the space. Because if you don't know where you are and you don't understand what we're working in, then you really can't progress. So Web 2, like I said, also brought us cloud computing, where software applications and data are stored on remote servers instead of just a personal computer. So this made it easier for people to access their data from anywhere in the internet with an internet connection. So you can see the implications and how that has changed the world and society. So again, this is the social web. So we have examples such as Wikipedia, which is basically a collaborative encyclopedia, which clearly outlines the participatory nature of Web 2. This is something where users log on, they provide information and add content to this encyclopedia. So it becomes a little more contribution based, not just read only. We have things such as Amazon, which has obviously revolutionized commerce, shopping, and the distribution of goods on a global level. Facebook and many other social networks, which we know have maybe some negative impacts on society, but definitely many positives to keep the world connected. And I view it as a positive step towards connection, socializing, engagement, and just the overall transfer of knowledge. And of course, YouTube. I never talk about Web 3, Web 2, Web 1, or pretty much anything without mentioning YouTube. I have an obsession with YouTube, and we'll get into that a little later. I think it is probably the single most important thing that has happened in our lifetime. But that's for another conversation. I could do a 3-hour session on just YouTube and how we can make money and grow businesses from YouTube. And the other side of YouTube is obviously the transference of knowledge, education, content. I like to say I've graduated from the school of YouTube. That's where I gained most of my knowledge, hands-on, and then applied that knowledge and learned through experience. So Web 2 was all about connecting, involving, participating, sharing, interacting. However, some of the greatest concerns in Web 2 is that the data is controlled by a few large corporations such as Facebook, Amazon, Google, which has led to data breaches, privacy concerns, and even censorship. So also because it's centralized, these large organizations control the flow of information. And through the use of algorithms and other methods, they can actually control what we see, when we see it, what we learn, what we consume, and much more. So that has been a major concern with Web 2. So hopefully in the coming slides, we can figure out a solution for that. If you're following along, we kind of know what that solution is, but we'll just continue on here. So Web 3. Before I talk about Web 3, I work in the space, I live in the space, I invest in the space. I've been in the space for a long time. So I'm that guy during the holidays where everybody's like, how's your crypto coins going? And how's this? And then over the years, it turned into, hey, how can I get involved? How can I understand this more? How can I make some money in the space? Usually is how it goes. So before I explain what Web3 is, what crypto is, what anything is, I start with the word decentralized. So again, the whole premise of this part of the webinar is to explain where we're at, what's going on, and how we are going to progress. So we need to have a starting point. So before we can explain what Web3 is, let's better understand what decentralized means. So the full description and definition is up on the screen. I will not read that, but I will break down some of the points that I use all of the time when I speak to people about this space. So I just wanted to highlight a few points here. So when someone says, Brandon, what is Web3? I actually replay these points in my head and I break down pretty much the last few slides that we've seen. And I run through the progression, the growth, the adoption, step by step. And to be honest, most of the time I lose people, but the ones that stick around, they get to this part. And I kind of make the process easier at this part. So Web3 is considered to be the decentralized web era. So we went from the static web era, we went to the connected, basically community era, and now we're in the decentralized web era. So what does decentralized mean? It's a great question. And I don't think many people even know the definition. We think we do, we have a general understanding, but they'll try to explain it until they're red in the face, but they have never read the definition. They don't know it verbatim. And I just want to take a few minutes to touch on these key points for more context. So if we use the definition on the left-hand side of the screen to pull out these points, we're going to realize that decentralized is the distribution of blank. So that can be power, that can be money, that can be decision-making, that can be a long list of things. It's distributing that to a group or individual rather than a central power. So throughout history, things have generally been centralized. So there's a central power, there's a central thing. Even growing up, your parents were the central thing. That's where your education came from, your knowledge, your behavior, just everything was centralized in that context. The next point is local and independent. So it's a local, it's independent, there's no intermediaries, there's no middlemen. It sounds like freedom. It sounds like the ability to progress how you choose. The other things are being dispersed from a central location, in this case, maybe a person, and spread out globally. So we're thinking connectivity, we're thinking the ability to transfer things. And the last point that I always touch on is no government control or third-party control over now most aspects. So about 5-6 years ago, I said there was no control over any aspect in the space, but as we know, things are tightening on a global level. So we just want to explain those points. So why did I run through the definition? The reason I ran through the definition is you need to keep in mind that the word decentralized has existed since the 1800s. So this in itself is not a new concept. It's simply the way that we're applying it to Web3 now and the internet and society that makes it feel like this new thing. And the reason I start there is because I'm never, whether I'm on a webinar, whether I'm in the Crypto CFOs community, or I'm just talking to somebody in public, I'm not here to prove to you the longevity of Web3, the stability of Web3 or crypto. That's for you to determine. And to be honest, as professionals in the space, it doesn't matter what we think of the future of Web3. And the reason I say that is if you're in the space already, there are clients that are in the space already. There are people that are operating here. There are people that need advisory services. They absolutely need help with their taxes. We'll get to that later. Accounting on a day-to-day basis. And it's not just individuals, it's organizations, it's companies. And this has been happening for years. So there's years and years and years of cleanup work that needs to be done, and plenty of future work that we will find as well. So again, as you talk to clients, as you're maybe puzzled or trying to figure out if you should jump into this niche, you can't think about will it last, because there's enough work for all of us at the moment. And you can absolutely build a thriving firm just by taking the first step. So let's get back on track here. The evolution of Web 2 to Web 3, we're now in Web 3 era. So it started in about 2004, and who knows when it's going to end. Like I just said, it really, truly does not matter. We're here now. We're going to ride it out. We're going to have fun. We're going to explore. We're going to be innovative, and we're going to absolutely crush it. We're going to make money, buy back our freedom, and you're going to be able to spend more time with your family and so much more that comes with this lifestyle. So at the risk of sounding like some internet sign up for my course guy, I'll get back to the presentation. So what is Web3? It's decentralized, 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 and you can say it one more time if you wish. The data is secure in most cases, secure, transparent, and controlled by the users. We were introduced to something called the blockchain, which is the basically foundation of everything that we're talking about and the entire reason that we're here. So if you're new and you're coming from Web 2, day one, you should Google what is blockchain. And then at that point, start learning, read the Bitcoin white paper, and then start your journey there. We were also introduced Web3 also contains tokenization. So this is tokenization of real world assets. This is many other tokenization. There's passes, there's event spaces, there's many things that come with tokenization. It's a whole webinar in itself. And we also were introduced to minimal fees and increased speed when we're comparing it to TradFi operations, whether that's banking systems, and especially working in developing or third world countries. We're noticing huge gaps in the fees and the increased speeds there. So let's talk about a few of the organizations or the abilities and the things that are operating in the space. So let's start with Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the first decentralized digital currency which allowed direct peer-to-peer transactions with no middleman. So that could be possibly replacing currency. In the previous slides, we talked about what each item is replacing. We're still too early to determine anything. I could speculate for hours on these topics, but let's just for the sake of this slide say Bitcoin is replacing currency potentially. Ethereum is a decentralized platform that enables smart contracts and dApps, which are decentralized apps, which allow developers around the world to build and deploy apps on a blockchain. Again, no corporation or middleman involved. You can build a dApp in your bedroom, in your office. You can list it, you can market it, and you can sell with no marketplace involvement, very, very minimal fees, and it's really, really peer-to-peer, direct to consumer. Next would be Uniswap. So Uniswap is an example of a decentralized exchange or a DEX, which allows users to trade cryptocurrencies directly from their wallets without a central authority like a bank or a physical currency exchange office at an airport or when you enter a new country. So we're seeing that being replaced as well. Next would be OpenSea. OpenSea is an interesting topic for me. And OpenSea, if you're not familiar, Rarible, any of these platforms, it's an NFT platform where users can create, buy, sell tokens that represent ownership of digital assets. So this could be artwork, this could be access to events, restaurants, anything of that nature. sell tokens that represent ownership of houses. So we talk about real estate and the tokenization of real world assets. And these type of platforms and NFTs seem to me very similar to Amazon. So maybe in the future, this is something where it could replace Amazon, where it's a peer-to-peer e-commerce platform where you have NFTs that represent the items you're going to purchase, use crypto, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I don't want to sound like everything is going to be replaced and Web3 is new. That doesn't always happen. But what I'm trying to do is draw these linear connections so we can see that when we talk about Web3, many people's initial thought is this is so different, this is crazy, it's not going to last, it's not going to work. But when you go step by step, as we've done through these few slides, you realize it's just a slow progression with huge jumps, huge revolutionizing things will happen. And then it just slowly increases and grows in the space. So in a nutshell, this highlights the progression from the static read-only internet with Web 1 to the interactive user-driven platforms in Web 2, and then finally to decentralized user-empowered ecosystems in Web 3. So we're finally at Web 3. We've made it. Now we're going to talk about the adoption in the space. So now that we understand it a little more, where is it going? So many people think, as we've covered in the previous slides, that Web3 is just speculative investments, degens trading meme coins, and just random NFTs that explode in value. And I have to be honest, it is those things, but it's also so much more. So when we look at these graphs, you can easily see that worldwide adoption of crypto, Bitcoin specifically, rivals very closely with the rise of the internet. So you can see here in 2023, Bitcoin adoption is actually higher than the internet was in 1999. So if we just live in a fictitious world and hypothetically say this is going to continue, it's a very interesting time, especially when you look to the right and you see that the US residents make up about 25% of the total action when it comes to estimated crypto gains. This is in 2023 at an estimate of 9.36 billion with a B. So if we are here on the chart in 2023 and we're looking at 9.36 billion, where is this number going to be in 2000, whatever it is? And I didn't take the time to project that math out because we really don't know what's going to happen. But I think it's safe to say it's going to continue to grow. It will be here for a while. But again, like I said, there is so much cleanup work. There's so much advisory that needs to happen. And so many people do need help. So for those of you that are operating primarily in the US, it's the perfect time to build and grow your practice, discover new service offerings, and make more money. And if you're outside of the US or you're taking a step further to learn jurisdictional requirements and regulations, then you're going to find yourself in an even better position because you can offer global services to clients around the globe. Continuing on the growth and adoption of Web3, we're going to deep dive into some of the stats that I pulled from Coinbase, Morning Consult, as well as some news headlines. Again, all of these stats point to an even greater global adoption of crypto, Web3, decentralized platforms, blockchain, NFTs, and so much more. So what we're doing here is we're laying the first foundation, or your second foundation of the ultimate, the final thing here is that we're extremely early in this niche. We're extremely early phases of everything. So those that get in now are the ones that are going to be the authorities in the space, the high earners, and those that make the most money at this time. So let's take a quick look at these charts. According to Coinbase, we're seeing that 80% of Americans think the global financial system unfairly favors powerful interests. That kind of connects to some of the previous slides that we've talked about as we've progressed to Web3. 76% of crypto investors agree that cryptocurrency and blockchain are the future. So that's 76% of crypto investors. So what that's proving is that this is not just speculative investment to make some sort of potential gain. We're seeing that many investors are seeing this as the future. And the key word in that is blockchain. So it's easy to say, I'm going to invest in Bitcoin because I think it's going to go up. There's a use case for it, but it's the blockchain. When we talk blockchain, this is every major corporation around the globe has the potential to operate on the blockchain. Many of them are, and it's just going to continue to lay this foundation for Web3. Moving on, 67% of Americans agree that the financial system needs a major change or even a complete overhaul. So as we noticed, as we jumped from each era of Web 1, 2, and 3, we noticed that there was a massive change and or a complete overhaul at that time. So maybe this is just a continuation and we can expect extreme growth from there. The last stat here is 20% of Americans own crypto, despite the events that have happened in 2022. We won't speak on that, but crypto ownership has still remained basically unchanged since early 2022. So even through downtimes, even through massive FUD and issues that are happening in the world, we're still seeing adoption remain at that 20% mark. So for those of us that are in the space, my entire life, pretty much my entire day is consumed by something crypto, something blockchain, staking, mining. In some way, shape, or form, I'm thinking or acting in Web3 at least half of the day. And to think that only 20% of the world, 20% of Americans are in this space, I just can't fathom what things would be in 5, 8, 10 years from now. Next is a quick headline. BlackRock Bitcoin ETF is the fastest to reach 10 billion. So for those of you with experience in TradFi, that is a massive headline, which shows adoption. It shows where the money's flowing. And we won't get too deep into ETFs and that stuff, but it was a headline that I think needed to be present in this presentation. Two more stats here. 39% year over year increase in Fortune 100 on-chain projects. So these are projects that are strictly on-chain. So that many examples of that, but we're seeing 39% year over year increase, compounding for the next X amount of years, keeping in mind we're only at about 20% adoption here. So when you put that math together, it's pretty incredible. And last, 56% of Fortune 500 executives say their companies have on-chain projects. So these are traditional organizations, companies, Fortune 500 companies who are dabbling into the blockchain space. Maybe they've released some NFTs, maybe they're trying out some new subscription model or blockchain technology tracking, something of that nature. So we're seeing 56% saying that they're involved in the space. So this, again, just hits home on the adoption, the growth, and the ownership. Moving forward. So when we talk about the growth of adoption of Web3, we want to talk, many people coming in from Web2 or with no knowledge in the space think that it's, again, just speculative investments. We're buying meme coins. We're just trying to get rich. We're gambling, all of these things. But after you take a few steps in, you start realizing the amount of different transactions that are happening on chain. So we have things that these happen daily. And I can say at least half of them I personally do every single month for the last 4 or 5 years. And it's things like buying and selling, mining, staking, wrapping, unwrapping, providing liquidity to the markets, airdrops, receiving crypto for payments, charitable on-chain investments, payment for goods and services, and so much more. So the point of me highlighting that is to prove that there are so many different types of transactions that are happening, which means each one of these transactions, so mining, for instance, you could build a practice only providing advisory services, tax, accounting, etc., to miners. There's enough people in the space, and we're so early in the space, you could literally become an expert in any one of these transactions. And that's just one element. We're going to touch on many more as we continue. But I just want to show you that when you're niching down, it becomes a greater experience and it becomes a better opportunity for you to become an expert in the space, for you to become an authority in the space. And when I hear that, I see dollar signs. I hear money. I hear value to clients. I hear services that will provide change to the world that we're living in. And these things will all help you to build, scale, and continue to grow your practice. So it does sound cliche, but the more you learn, the more you'll earn. So whether you decide to learn many of these transactions, I will say I think you should have a general understanding of at least these transactions, because these are the most prominent and most widely used, I would say. Or you're choosing to only choose a few of these transactions to really dive into and become an expert on. This will just help you stand out in this extremely underserved niche. And it just amplifies the need for educated professionals who can provide value. And of course, that value comes at a premium. Next, why should you care about Web3? Let's just assume you're all making money in Web2. You all have outstanding practices, great clients. You've been in business for a while now. You're great at what you do. Why should you care about Web3? If that's sincerely your question, at 13 slides in, you should probably just sign off, because there's no way to convince you at this point. I think I've done the best job at trying to show you that it really doesn't matter. You should absolutely be caring about Web3. This is an unavoidable shift in finance, and the financial landscape is undergoing a significant transformation, driven largely by the rise of Web3 technologies. Digital assets like cryptocurrencies, NFTs, blockchain-based investments are no longer fringe in interests. They're becoming central to modern finance. For wealth advisors, tax professionals, accountants, CPAs, etc., this means that understanding and engaging with Web3 is no longer optional, it's essential. So again, it doesn't matter your personal thoughts on Web3. You do not have to believe in it personally. You do not have to necessarily, although I'm putting my foot in my mouth because in a few slides I'll kind of go against this, but you do not actually have to be operating in the space on a personal level or on a business level. But you just have to realize that this wave is coming, it has been coming, and it is here now. Shameless plug, we have a podcast, which my partner Taylor does. It's called From Niche to Necessity, which basically summarizes this entire presentation. And we meet with many professionals in the space, not just tax and accounting professionals, but we do have, a 1 hour, 45-minute podcast with them to really break down this transition from niche to necessity and truly understand how others are operating in the space. And that's on any platform that is streaming podcasts, including YouTube. So why should you care about Web3? Client expectations and opportunities. So one of the most pressing areas where clients need support is in crypto taxation and compliance. The regulatory environment around digital assets is complex and rapidly evolving. Clients are looking for professionals who can help them navigate these challenges. And whether it's understanding the tax implications of crypto transactions, reporting requirements for NFTs, or the legal nuances of blockchain, your expertise will be crucial. You need to educate yourself. You need to stay up to date. This is the absolute most important thing that you can be doing ongoing. Additionally, as blockchain-based investments grow in popularity, clients will also need guidance on how to incorporate these assets into their portfolios. So this naturally opens up new avenues for wealth advisors to provide value, from recommending the right mix of digital and TradFi assets to advising on the risks and benefits of decentralized products, et cetera, et cetera. So this space changes daily, and we all need to do our best to stay educated, stay above, join communities, join groups, come to these summits, come to these conferences, really immerse yourself into the space so you can not only interact and meet other players, but you can actually learn and find the best ways to serve your clients. So why should you care about Web3? Staying competitive and future-proof. So staying ahead of the curve is critical in Web3. By positioning yourself as a knowledgeable professional in the space, you not only meet the current demands of your clients, but you also future-proof your practice. We don't want to build a practice, start making a bunch of money, and we just forgot to do some things. We didn't educate ourselves. We got stuck in our ways, and we no longer build. So I highlighted this sentence because I think it's extremely important. Early adoption of Web3 expertise sets you apart from competitors and establishes you as a leader in this emerging field. So if we bring this to the basics, when I'm around people with no Web3 experience, and I know how to even just set up a wallet, a cold wallet, a hot wallet, regardless, any type of wallet. They immediately look at me as this knowledgeable figure in the space, and like I must know it all because that was so crazy. And it's not that at all. So it's just I set up my first wallet maybe 6.5 years ago, 5.5 years ago. So it's just I was early into this. I played around with it. I looked at things from a different perspective. And from a professional standpoint, this is what you can be doing as well. The reality is that those of you who embrace Web3 today will be the ones leading the industry tomorrow. So you all have the skills, the knowledge, and the client base to thrive as digital assets and blockchain technologies become normal. So as things, if we remember back in the day, there was such things called internet accountants. And if somebody's labeling themselves as an internet accountant nowadays, they probably don't have many clients, and they seem to be outdated and not really working in the space. So it's not just about keeping up, but it's about gaining and keeping that competitive edge to ensure long-term success. When we start new projects, new companies, many people just want to race to the finish line. I like to say it's not a race, it's a marathon, and we want to make sure that we have longevity in the space. Otherwise, all of our hard work goes to the wayside. Position yourself as a Web3 friendly practice. So as we get into now, the reason why everybody came, how do we build a practice? What do we do? What does it look like? The first steps here, let's just assume we're on day one. We're going to talk about choosing your specialty, identifying your target audience, and specializing in specific Web3 services. So what do I mean? You need to position yourself and present yourself as a thought leader at all times and an expert in the space. If you're not perceived as a thought leader, you will not be able to grow a firm to, 6, 7, 8 figures. It just won't happen. This is the world we live in. If you're not creating content, if you're not appearing as an authority, it's not going to work. I'm just being blunt, straightforward. Don't waste your time. Go find a job at another firm. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not prepared to become a thought leader, I'm not sure if it's going to work. Otherwise, if you're not, how would anyone even find out that you exist nowadays? And if they do, why would they even pay you? Why would they want to contract you? Why would they want to work with you? So before you can do this, you need to understand what your strengths and your specializations are going to be. Then you can define and communicate that to the world. So this is where it gets interesting now. To effectively position your practice as Web3 friendly, it's crucial to first understand the specific specialties within Web3 and then figure out what resonates with you. So are you focusing on just crypto taxation, tokenomics, DeFi advisory work? Maybe it's specific blockchain-based audit services. Are you an NFT expert? Are you focused on a certain blockchain like Polygon or Optimism? Or, what is your specialty? Once you define your specialty or your niche, then you can tailor your services to meet the unique needs of each client in the space. Additionally, knowing who your target audience is within the ecosystem is key. Are your clients crypto investors? Are they tech-savvy entrepreneurs or traditional businesses that are looking to enter into Web3? Once you understand who you're serving or who you're hoping to serve, then you need to refine all of your messaging and your service offerings to match. We want to specialize in specific Web3 services. When you niche down, which we'll assume that you're choosing to do by entering or growing in Web3, you need to specialize in something. You can't niche down and not specialize. It just doesn't make sense. It's like this motion of coming down and then moving forward. You can't be everything to everyone, and you shouldn't try, at least not in the beginning. As you grow, you can expand, you can hire, you can find partners, you can continue to offer services to others, but in the beginning, you want to specialize. And that's something that's extremely important, and that will allow you to charge a premium. So let's talk about titles. No offense to anybody. This is a safe space. This is just, we want to grow and we want to move forward. But to me, I would not want to be one of these guys. I think they're boring and they miss out on potential clients daily. Web3 advisors, blockchain accountant, crypto tax specialist. It just sounds boring. It sounds lame. It sounds mundane. It doesn't fit with the whole premise and idea of presenting ourselves as an authority. You need to be more. You need substance. You need to be special. If you're not trying to be special in life, in business, in anything, what is the point? You want somebody to read your title, you want somebody to read your bio, and they immediately see you as an authority. So I love to use crazy analogies. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. Let's just break something down here. If you are labeling yourself as a basketball historian, or we're meeting a basketball historian, sounds knowledgeable in all things basketball. You know, basketball was created 133 years ago. They might know many of the players, top players. I give a lot of credit to that person, and I can appreciate that they've taken the time to truly learn and become a historian in that specific sport. Sounds amazing until the next guy walks in. The next guy labels himself as a historian of the evolution of the defensive guard position in the NBA from 1975 to 1985. Whew. I don't even know what that means, but that's the point. The point is that this person takes himself so serious that he niches down and specializes in a specific thing within this. So he's still a basketball historian, but he's building a story around himself. He's building a story around his services, whatever a basketball historian would do. But let's take a moment and really understand the point that I'm trying to get across here. Does this make this person the most knowledgeable, the most intelligent, the highest paid guy? No, he might be none of those things, but his description and his presentation positions him as an authority, as an extreme expert. He's niched down, he specializes in a specific thing, and he probably does very well for himself because he can charge a premium. Why? I can't make the connection of why you would even need a basketball historian, but if ESPN had a special and they needed to run it, they would hire this guy and he could charge them any dollar amount that he wanted to because he is probably the only person who owns that title. And ultimately, he is the professional, the expert, and the authority in that space. So again, I can't say it enough times, make yourself larger than life, make yourself special, and let's go into a few specific examples for everybody that's here today. So now this guy sounds cool. A Bitcoin and Ethereum portfolio strategist. So again, it's just whatever the example was, a Web3 advisor. Same thing. It's the same exact job here. But we've positioned ourselves to highlight Bitcoin and Ethereum, and we talk about being a strategist. That just sounds, that sounds amazing here. So I want to hire this guy. He sounds knowledgeable. He seems like he understands specific topics that would interest me. If I came across his website, I would see that his focus is specializing in developing diversified portfolios of crypto, including altcoins, stablecoins, and tokens, but primarily focus on building wealth through Bitcoin and Ethereum. So that's a very important sentence there, because I want you to understand that just because you present yourself in a niche down specialized position, it doesn't mean that you can't cover everything else. It doesn't mean that you're limiting yourself or your services. You want to make sure that you're still going to be able to offer everything. It's just the initial attraction here. We can also see the services he provides and his target clients, high net worth individuals, crypto enthusiasts, and early adopters looking to maximize their crypto investments. Next one, DAO accounting specialist. So immediately, if I'm running a DAO, if I'm involved in a DAO and I need accounting, I want this guy. I know what he focuses on. I'm assuming he's the expert, and I'm assuming that's the person that I want to hire. So again, it's just a play on words. Make yourself larger, build yourself as an authority, and continue to grow in the space. So we're going to go through a few slides a little quicker than I expected, just because we're running to that 10-minute mark, and there's some amazing sessions coming up. But I will provide this resource and my contact information for anybody who wants to continue this conversation. It's pretty much all I talk about every day. So moving forward, you want to communicate your expertise, use the knowledge and the information that we had from the beginning slides, and make sure you're highlighting your credentials and the knowledge. I can almost guarantee that everybody on this call has a certificate, has a course, has something that they've achieved that is not on their LinkedIn page, their website. You want to put it all out there. You want to put everything that you know, every case study, every success story, put it out there. Next, adopt Web3 technologies. I wish I had more time to speak on this. We can also meet up again in the networking session, so feel free to jump into that in a few hours, and we can continue this presentation at any questions. But adopt Web3 technologies. When we started the CryptoCFOs community, In that first year, I met with at least 100 professionals that were working or immediately entering in the space. And I would say about 15% of them did not even have a wallet for their business or personal, which was absolutely mind-blowing and wild for me to think that people would be serving crypto clients and they didn't even have a wallet or understand how to set one up. So you want to, if you're serving people and you choose to jump into this niche, you want to use blockchain tools. You want to consider using things for client interactions, smart contracts for agreements, tokens, NFTs for subscriptions, prepayments, but especially accepting crypto. Still to this day, not knocking any of the professionals that are in our community, but many of them do not even say that they accept crypto on their website. And it's just mind-blowing to me why you would not think that or want to work with somebody. They have crypto. It's the same as saying we only accept money orders and we have to wait 5 days for the mail to arrive. Just doesn't make sense to me. Cool. So we got about 7 minutes. So how do you actually do it? Consistency. So when it comes to marketing is a pay to play game, but there is good news. You can choose how you pay. So what I mean by that is you can, let's split it down the middle. There's some people who have budgets. There's some people who have some clients. They're ready to start off. They don't want to do their marketing and they hire somebody like myself or another firm or another company to handle their marketing. I think it's not always the most effective way to handle things at this point when you're starting off. In most cases, hiring the right person will help you skip many levels and get money faster on your own. But when it comes time to scale that, you really have to be special. You have to hone in on what your secret sauce is personally, and you can't pay someone to do that. So the other side of the coin is paying with your time. That's you creating social posts, you getting out there and recording videos, you meeting and talking to people, and using your time as the resource, usually, in my opinion, in my experience, has the fastest ROI because it is generally the most genuine and nobody can be you, regardless of how corny or, whatever that sounds. Nobody can be you. Nobody can be special like you, and you need to convey that to the world. So you have to put in the work. Moving on, be where your clients are. So Jay-Z is one of my favorite artists. I could probably recite almost every one of his songs. And he has a line that says, "I'm everywhere, you ain't never there." So first thing we're going to do is we're going to excuse him and look past the use of the double negative, but we won't go there. But so many times when I'm speaking to new clients or I'm breaking down how to market on consult calls, we want to make sure that where is our client, where do our clients live, and we want to be there. We want to make sure that it's a simple thing. If you're selling pens and Amazon is where the most pens are being sold, then why are you not on Amazon? And worse yet, why are you complaining that you're not selling any pens? Go where your clients are. If you like Twitter, but your clients are on Reddit, you need to be on Reddit. You need to go where your clients are or your potential leads are. Anywhere where it is, you need to be there. And that's something that many people overlook. Again, I apologize. I am rushing to meet this mark. So I will move ahead. But YouTube is very special to me. Quick question. What is the largest search engine in the world? Google. Okay. But the second largest search engine is YouTube. And like I said earlier in the session, YouTube is the most important thing that has ever happened to anybody building a business. And I can briefly show you why. So I quickly went to Google and I went to YouTube. I typed in accountant that specializes in NFT taxation. So I'm looking for a specialist. I'm looking for an expert that knows his or her stuff. And I want to make sure that I find the right person. On the left is the Google results. After I scrolled past 8 sponsored ads of random companies that still, I only heard about 3 of those, and I've been in the space for many years now. Each one of them, I couldn't find a person. I couldn't find a name of a person. On some of them, I couldn't even find contact information, which boggles me. But anyways, when I type it into YouTube, not only do I get names, not only do I get pictures, but I also get videos and descriptions of various professionals. So what this does as a potential client, it allows me to vet the people that I want to work with. I can see, for instance, Patrick Camuso, who we do a lot of work with. Patrick has done an amazing job, at least in my mind, at positioning himself as the NFT sales tax guy. If anybody mentions NFT sales tax, my mind instantly goes to Patrick. And to be straightforward and blunt, I don't know if he's the best. I don't know if I haven't worked with him on that level, but he's done an amazing job at positioning himself this way. And you can see on YouTube, somebody could just click that, get to know him, ask him some questions, and find ways that he wants to or they want to work with him. So quick last slide. We want to make sure that we understand what Web3 is, how it works, where your clients are, how they're involved, and continue to educate yourself again on a specific topic. Remind yourself you need a specific topic, a specific niche within a niche. And the further you niche down, the more you can charge, the less clients you need, the easier life is. And you can do so much more with family time, vacationing, and living life. Clearly define your specialty, what you know, what do you do, who do you serve, what your services are, and don't be afraid to just be yourself. Very important, adopt the technology, set up your wallet immediately for your business, set up an ENS domain. If you don't know what one of those are, you should absolutely have one. It makes it very easy to get paid with no road bumps or speed bumps. You want to determine where your clients are, and you want to market on those platforms in a native way that'll attract them to you. Remember, if the pens are selling on Amazon, go to Amazon. If your clients are on Reddit, go to Reddit. Doesn't mean you can't do everything, but you need to be where they are. Be consistent in whatever you do, and do not stop, even when the money comes. I could do 3 hours talking about what happens when you reach that $1 million in revenue. Many of my clients just tank for a while, and they just forget how they got there, and they're just happy with what they have. And then when you need to cycle out new clients, it becomes a hard journey at that point. So again, I do apologize. I wanted to have a Q&A section at the end. If anybody has some really high level questions, I could probably answer one or two of them. My contact info is on the screen. I will be in the networking session the entire time later on, so feel free to jump in. We can ask any questions. Oh, and I've been awarded a few minutes for a Q&A. So let me quickly go through this. Let's see here. We have starting the Q&A section. So Matt, what's the most appealing thing about crypto on the balance sheet for those adopting it in 2024 and beyond? Again, I am just a marketing guy, but I think I probably have the most CPE credits out of anybody who's not a CPA, and I've been in the space for long enough. I think the answer is in the question. It is the balance sheet. It is the fact that blockchain is a ledger. It's an immutable ledger that's available to everybody. It's the ability to see everything in a transparent way on chain rather than traditional methods in the past. Assuming that you believe that externalities lead to economic and resource efficiency, how can society internalize externalities in a decentralized way? How does decentralized network deal with the free rider problem? That's a very deep question, Matt. Come to the networking session and we could probably get in a deeper conversation there. But definitely interested to answer that. Let's see if we can get one more before we get kicked off here. In 1995, I failed a college course in education tech. The main objective was learning how to use electronic mail. Exactly. And you probably felt very bad about yourself. And now it's just human nature. We progress, we grow, and we continue to prosper. So that seems like most of the questions here. But definitely excited to meet all of you or any of you in the networking session. My partner Taylor is coming very shortly with a reading data on chain session. So feel free to jump into that. And I will see you guys later.